hate this for Joe Burrow. I hate this for the National Football League. I hate this for all four of us at the desk. But most importantly, I hate it for the Burrow family and for the Bengals fans. But where I am with it, James, Joy, Shady, is that we have to acknowledge the fact at this point that Joe Burrow might be injury prone. What I love about sports is it separates the elite from the elite. And in order to be the greatest or amongst the greatest of all time, you both have to have it between the ears, the neck up, but you also have to have it from the neck down. You can have really, really great players, but unfortunately, if they get injured often, you do not get to see that greatness materialize. I love me some Joe Burrow. I absolutely do. Spent time with him last offseason, ran into him at a July 4th party at Mark Sanchez's house. Phenomenal human being he is. Phenomenal player he is. I think he's second only to Patrick Mahomes. But at the point in which he is now going to miss another season with an injury, I, as an analyst, have to objectively analyze the data and say to myself, this dude be getting hurt. He be getting hurt, y'all. It's just what happens. He is an incredible winner when he is on the field. But when you talk about quarterbacks and quarterbacks that have gotten injured, we now have to put Joe Burrow in that conversation. James Jones, I'm reminded of Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz, a person I know well. When I think about Carson Wentz's career, it got off to a phenomenal start. Phenomenal start. He was en route to winning an MVP, but he got hurt. Carson Wentz, Joe Burrow, first 4 years of both of their careers. As much as we talked about Carson Wentz being injury prone, I think to myself, wait a second. Joe Burrow has missed more time than Carson Wentz once he misses the remainder of this season in the regular season. So I'm most saddened for Burrow, but I also have the sober realization that as talented as Joe Burrow is, and boy, he is talented, that injury-prone narrative is going to start to surface as it should.
No doubt, and he's on the edge of it. I mean, you're talking about these as two season-ending injuries that you've had. You had one your rookie year, and now you're having another one here. So with that being said, yes, he's flirting with it. The only reason why I wouldn't completely say it just yet is because Joe Burrow has showed us that he's a dog, and he's going to go out there and he's going to play hurt and make it through some games. But when you talk about 4 years, 2 of your seasons being done due to injury, he is flirting with it. And it scares me because I don't know if any of you guys have dealt with injuries. I'm sure all you guys have dealt with injuries, whether they season-ending or not. You start to think about them. You know what I mean? So if you tore your ACL and you come back, you feel anything little with your ACL, you start to think about those injuries. Now you mess your wrist up, you got to have season-ending surgery. If you come back next season and it starts messing with you, you're gonna think about that stuff. And the way Joe Burrow plays football, you can get hurt. I'm not saying he's running like Lamar Jackson, but you don't want to change Joe Burrow. We've seen Joe Burrow the first 4 weeks of this season with a calf injury, trying to throw the ball from the pocket, not really be mobile to get those explosive. And we've seen how this offense looked. It did not look good. So you want Joe Burrow to have the confidence and all that to go out there and play like Joe Burrow, move around, make plays with his legs. Sometimes you got to go get tough yards when you run it and all that. And now that he's battling a lot of these injuries, it might change the way he approaches the game and plays the game. It might change the way his coach calls some of these plays. So I think this is huge. He's definitely flirting with being an injury-prone player because these are 2 out of the 4 seasons to where it's done for Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I mean, this sucks. It's been a really rough year for quarterbacks. We've lost a lot of big-time talent, and it's disappointing. It's disappointing for Bengals fans. It's disappointing for us, as you said. We're not going to get to see one of the top talents in the league finish the season. It's really unfortunate. But I'm not so sure that Joe Burrow is injury-prone in so much as the Bengals have refused to put together an offensive line that can block for him. If I told you that the highest-ranked pass blocking that the Bengals offensive line has been rated since he's been in the league was 25th, would you be surprised?
No.
Because that's this year. That's the highest, 25th. Last year was 31st, the year after that. Before that was 29th, and the year before that it was 27th. He has been sacked 148 times in his career. That's second most in the NFL since 2020. Russell Wilson's the only one that's been sacked more times since 2020. He was sacked 41 times in 2022. That's the 6th most in the NFL. The point is, he gets sacked a lot. Does that matter? I don't know. You guys have been hit before. You've done some hitting before. Wear and tear from the amount of times that you've been hit does tally up at some point, right? That you have to pay the reaper on that kind of wear and tear on your body. I assume as much. I haven't been tackled on the football field, but that's what it does.
Yeah, it hurts.
It hurts, okay? I know you was good, Shady. You avoided it, you know what I mean? You know,
Here and there,
kind of
you
a
gonna
dime,
get-
you know, I feel you.
Little red.
But if you get one or two or, you know, I don't know, 148 of them,
Something like
it
that.
might start to do some wear and tear on your body. And why resist the comparison that he is injury prone is because when I think of an injury prone player, I think of somebody who doesn't really fight through injuries or constantly has injuries even by putting themselves in danger. What I see with Joe Burrow is somebody who puts their body on the line, who pushes through injuries. He played earlier this season playing through an injury, and he wasn't obviously himself.
Yeah.
So I can't jump to he is injury prone in so much as I say he has had extra wear and tear on his body that a franchise quarterback should not have. He just shouldn't. The numbers are there.
Well, this injury right here is just, I mean, the Bengals, the playoffs picture is over. It's done, right? And then I look at also just when we compare quarterbacks, we go to playoffs, Super Bowls, stats, yards, touchdowns. And now this will be another year removed from him where he can't go out there and get a certain amount of touchdowns, certain amount of yards, where a guy like Lamar Jackson, a guy like Patrick Mahomes, they still be boosting up them stats, boosting up their accolades. This might be the year now where, hey, guys like Patrick Mahomes, they won't see a Joe Burrow in the playoffs, which gave Patrick Mahomes trouble before.
Yep.
You look at the other guy like Lamar Jackson. Oh, well, I don't have to worry about Joe Burrow, in the playoffs because he's not going to be there. So all these things are like alarming to him just because I love guys that have legacy, right? And Joe Burrow is one of them guys that has a legacy, and he's starting off very, very well. But you never know, man. Injury like this. He had an injury before, season injury. Next year, you don't know how he's going to come back. So I just hate that part of the game because it's like we are being cheated from greatness. And I think not seeing Joe Burrow in football is cheating us.
Here's what I wonder, real quick, because Joy brought up a really good point of the Bengals offensive line. And my thought process is, how are the Bengals going to have to reconstruct their roster in order to protect Joe Burrow? When you think about the game of football, what I love about the quarterback position, and Shady, you know this best, what I love about the quarterback position, a great quarterback allows you to turn a blind eye to deficiencies. The Chiefs were like, our defense ain't great, but we got Patrick Mahomes. So we don't have to pay a high-money linebacker, a high-money cornerback. We don't have to do all that because we got Pat. The Bills are like, man, our skill positions ain't great. We could use a better number two. We could use a better running back, but you know what? We got Josh. He makes up for it. Remember, if you go back to the Bengals' Joe Burrow's second year, they could have drafted Penei Sewell. They could have done it. But what'd they do instead, Shady?
Chase.
They took Jamar Chase.
Me and my boy.
And that was questioned at the time.
No doubt about it.
And my boy.
And in theory, you could question it now. So my question is, obviously, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. But if we want to talk about the fact that Joe Burrow has been sacked the second most times, only to Russell Wilson since Russell stepped into the league, you could question it now. The question then becomes, based upon what Joy is saying, and I do think it's very bright what Joy is saying, is how are the Bengals going to have to restructure the roster? Because if you want to put more money into the offensive line, you can. But T. Higgins got to get paid. If you want to put more money into the offensive line, you can. But Tyler Boyd going to want to re-up. If you want to put more money into the offensive line, you can. But Jamar Chase is up. So Joe Burrow has allowed this team to look over the offensive line so he can have his dogs. But Shady, you say it, and I agree with it. Joe Burrow has never had a bad receiving core.
Never.
At LSU, he had Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Thaddeus Moss, the son of Randy Moss, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and he had another pick that went in the 5th round to the Panthers. So, and he gets to the league. He got, Terrence Marshall. Gets to the league, got Jamar Chase, got Tyler Boyd, got T. Higgins, and got Joe Mixon. And not to mention the tight ends he's had.
And Joe might be gone.
So all I'm saying is the injury for me means if we want to protect Joe more on the offensive line, we can do that. But James, at what cost to Joe?
Good point. That's a real good point, actually.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And that's why this sucks. Because when you have an opportunity, even the way he's been sacked, this team with Joe Burrow this season, if he was 100% healthy, had an opportunity to get back to the Super Bowl and win it. Once you get injured, now all this stuff starts to creep in because you start thinking about the stuff that Joy's saying. Okay, well, he's getting banged up. We got to protect him better. So you know what that means? Hey, we're going to have to draft a young player in the 4th, 3rd round, whatever, and let T. Higgins walk because we don't want to pay him. We want to put some dudes on the offensive line. So is Joe Burrow going to have a lot of success? Now it's double Jamar Chase. Somebody else got to win. That got to be a rookie. So does that mean holding the ball a little bit more? And it's even more. So that's why these injuries, They always bring up a lot of problems, especially when when guys are free agents and things are coming up. It's going to be tough, and that's why I really, really hate injuries as football. I wish we didn't see none of them, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be a different Cincinnati Bengals team next year, and it has to be because you have to find a way to protect the franchise. I don't care who you're throwing to. You have to find a way to protect the franchise.
But this has been a problem.
Yes, it has.
You mentioned Jamar Chase. That was a shocking move because he got hurt in his rookie season because the offensive line wasn't good.
Right.
So this is not news. Like, I'm not delivering something that's shocking that the offensive line hasn't been good. They get the same statistics. They watch the same tape. They know these numbers. So this was always going to be something that they had to do. When we talk about championships, we talk about prime, right? What does he talk about? The trenches. Everyone knows that is the unit that you have to have in place if you're going to win a championship. What happened to Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl? They had a unit, and what happened? They had injuries, and they didn't win. It's vital. So this has been an issue for the Bengals since Joe Burrow has come into the league. So when you say, what does it look like? It's got to look different because otherwise you're going to continue down this path, and having Joe Burrow there and paying him is pointless because he's not going to be able to stay healthy.
Shady, here's my question, though. It's like, this is when it comes down to, is Burrow one of them ones? Is Burrow one of them ones?
What you mean by that?
What I mean by that is Patrick Mahomes doesn't have a ton of help at the skill positions anymore, but his left tackle now just got paid. They got him from the Bucks. Patrick Mahomes has Travis Kelce, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Rashee Rice, third-round pick, I think, from SMU. Got the boy from Princeton. Got Sky Moore, I think, a third-round pick or a second-round pick from last year. Second-round pick from last year. So it's like you got Kadarius Toney on a rookie deal, but Patrick Mahomes is one of them ones.
But Patrick Mahomes he's more than one of them ones. He's like the one of one.
Correct.
There's like three ever.
That's it. Them ones.
But you can win a championship as not one of them ones without being Patrick Mahomes and having just Travis Kelce. Like, you can put together a roster that you have to draft, you have to develop. Like, everyone has to do this. Everyone can't just pay everybody and have number one receivers up and down the roster.
Really, really good point, though, because we had the same thing with Aaron Rodgers. Everybody's like, go get a number one wide receiver. Go draft a first-round wide receiver, free agency. Jordy, second round. Cobby, second round. D. Drive, seventh round. Greg Jennings, second round. I'm third round. And 12 found a way to spin it around. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, like Shady's saying, you've been playing with all these big-time receivers, but if we got to spend some money to protect you, then we still need you to go be out there to be Joe, even though we're giving you some free agents or some rookies.
And that's what happens when the quarterback gets paid, that's when the teams kind of fall apart. Because, okay, now you got all this money in one position. He's a great player, but we got to see how great he is, because if he's as great as we think, because we can't pay all the linemen.
Yeah.
Right? We can't pay all the wide receivers. So some got to give. And I think that, and to your point, you're saying he's getting banged up. Okay, cool. So either you run the ball more, right? Because they are last in rushing, am I correct?
But who had to take a pay cut?
That's another one. See,
Joe Mixon had to take a pay cut because Joe Burrow had to get breaded.
You got to put money on the offensive line, or you got to put it to the wide receiver. You made a great point also with the Chiefs. I had a great time talking with Brett Veach, their GM, and we was just talking ball, and he was saying that they got to put so much emphasis on the draft because so much money is tied to the quarterback and to the tackle and to the tight end. So they can't go out there and get this a super big-time wide receiver. Right. They can't go out there and get two of them. They can't do it. So if you look at the Bengals, now I will say this because I got to do my job. Like, everybody likes to talk about the Patriots and offensive line. And I remember playing them. I didn't think their offensive line was that great. Tom gets the ball off so quick. Yeah. You have no chance to really get him. And I'm not blaming Joe Burrow because the way they play the game, they throwing the ball deep. He's throwing everywhere. So it's a matter of this, I don't know, man. You got to be either better GMs and draft better or pick and choose. You going to go with the wide receivers or you go with the linemen? Yeah.
Subscribe here to get the latest from Speak, and go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.